Welcome back to What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur. I'm Vincent Lanci, speaker and author of the book Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption. Want to know what it's really like to be an entrepreneur? Well, you came to the right place. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, or looking to start your journey tomorrow, or just someone who needs a little extra motivation to get through the day, this is the perfect podcast for you. This is the place where you will learn exactly what it's like in the world of entrepreneurship and hear authentic stories of entrepreneurs grinding on each episode. My goal for this podcast is to help you realize that giving up is never an option. If you missed the last episode, be sure to download it after you finish tuning in today. Before I introduce my guest, I'll share another entrepreneurial story to inspire you all. I will now introduce the story of an older entrepreneur, so many of you may forget to call him just that. Today, I'll introduce Thomas Edison. Here's a few highlights I jotted down. When Thomas Edison was a younger student, he was considered troublesome, and his mother was forced to homeschool him. She still saw a future ahead of him as she was a teacher as well, so she had to decide to homeschool him. He started grinding at just 12 years old, where he worked for the railroad, and interestingly enough, he sold newspaper on these trains at that young of an age. I found it even more impressive how he actually printed this newspaper himself. At 15 years old, he learned telegraphy, and he then traveled around the world, filling in for the men fighting in the Civil War. Of course, just like a real entrepreneur, he found a way to improve that skill in the telegraph, and he patented 150 of them. He sold the inventions to the highest bidder, and at the time of his death, he held a record 1,093 patents. Among Edison's other innovations are the first ever industrial research laboratory, the phonograph, and of course, you guessed it, the light bulb. On September 4th, 1882, he actually activated the electrical power distribution system at the Pearl Street plant in Lower Manhattan, New York. This now provides electricity to 400 bulbs for 82 customers, and then by 1884, the Pearl Street station provided electricity to light more than 10,000 bulbs. Edison even collaborated and innovated with other famous American inventors. I was happy to learn this, that him and Henry Ford, whom he actually once employed, designed a car battery for the self-starting instead of crank-start version of the Model T car. Henry Ford actually requested this service. Hey, Anthony, what'd you like best about that story and journey?
I like the part where, as a kid, the guy learned how to hustle.
Hustling right away.
Yeah, that's where you got to start, too. In order to just set yourself up for success, you got to have that mindset day one.
That voice you all just heard is today's guest. Anthony I met several years ago in Tampa when I was looking for a tattoo artist to give me a portrait of my mother. We ended up getting along, both learning that we're entrepreneurs and hardworking, trying to improve our crafts. He's been so supportive that he even came to my MBA commencement speech and was loud, rooting me on in the stands. I'm excited to share his journey with you all, as this gives the show the tattoo's perspective into being an entrepreneur. Allow me to please introduce Anthony Travieso. Anthony, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, man, thanks for having me here, dude. I appreciate it.
Of course. Please preview a bit of your story before the questions, then we'll touch on where you're at today.
All right. Well, my dad is an immigrant from Cuba, so I'm a first-generation American. My dad kind of came up from nothing, so, me growing up, I didn't have much either. Right about when I was a young teenager, I realized that the military was going to be my way out, so I joined the military, I was an infantryman with the 82nd Airborne Division for a while until I got injured in Iraq. After that, I set down my rifle and picked up a tattoo machine. Since then, I've been tattooing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can't wait for everybody to learn the exact story and the journey you've been on, because it's definitely inspiring. But now, Anthony, this is where we do the Big Five. On each episode, my guest and I will go over these 5 questions to help the listeners learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. You ready to go?
Yeah, buddy.
Let's do it. So let's talk about when you first realized you weren't happy with your state, or that you just needed a change.
I'd have to say it was as soon as I started tattooing and I realized that I could make a good living working for myself. And in reality, everybody wakes up every day and doesn't want to have a boss. They want to be their own boss.
Yeah, well, let's talk about a little bit your beginning journey of when tattooing compared to how it led up today. Because now you're booked. We're talking working 6 weeks straight, 6 days a week here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the beginning a little bit to inspire some of our listeners.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, it's like any other craft. Once you pick up your tattoo machines, it's, learn. You have to be willing to learn, willing to grow, better yourself. And, the thing about tattooing is it's a competition with yourself. So, I mean, first starting, I had little to no clientele. I mean, I was making no money. Sometimes it was bleak. And I was like, man, am I really doing the right thing? Or should I get a real job? And then I just realized, just keep pushing. Now I'm 10 years into it, with, no greater love than what I do for a living. And I mean, now, yeah, like you said, I'm booked out. I'm busy. I'm making money. I'm, taking care of my family. It feels great. I'm not going to lie.
What would you say one or two of the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur? We know we got a lot here, but let's narrow that down.
I'd say the hardest part is accepting the fact that the business you think you own actually owns you.
Yeah, talk about that.
No matter what way you slice the pie, when you open a business, it consumes you. That's all you can think about. It's like any other thing that you love in your life. Your kids, your firstborn kid, like all you think about is that child. Is the same thing with a business. All you can think about is it, and I mean, outside of that, there is a lot of other stuff, but that's the main one that I can think about is be prepared to give it 120%. And not a penny less at all, because that's make it.
Absolutely. What's one more difficult part that you struggle with, or you've improved on to make a skill now?
I mean, as far as making a skill with it would be my marketing.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. Let's talk about it.
I went from not understanding social media at all to, spending a couple hours a day studying it and realizing that Google and Facebook and Instagram were crucial in building yourself as a name. So, I mean, I have countless hours of sitting there and having my girl yell at me and my kids wonder why I'm not playing with them or something. And it's all because I had to build this so that way I can take this time, to spend with my family and stuff, because I put in all those man hours in the beginning to learn and, master what I needed to open up the door for more of a relaxed lifestyle. It's a lot of hard work up front, but just like pushing a boulder uphill, man, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders till you get to the top. As soon as you get to the top, it starts rolling downhill for you.
Exactly. I mean, now just because the reach that social media has, everybody's on social media. 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't a thing.
Yep.
And we're a little older where we weren't born with the cell phone in our hand. Now these kids, they're light years ahead of me, and I've been using it probably longer than them, but it is a challenge in itself, I have to agree.
Yep. Yeah. The way that these kids say, can I get a hold of you on this social platform? And I'm like, I've never heard of that. Like, oh my goodness, now I got to look it up, It's, because back in the day, tattooing was all word of mouth. It was, I see your work, I like your work, who did your work? Now it's a combination. Just because they see your work in real life doesn't mean they like your presence on Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So it's just a funny, double-edged sword that you got to walk.
It's difficult, man. Social media is a whole job in itself. Let's talk about one of your greatest failures, Anthony. What would you say the greatest failure was, and why did it stick with you? What did it teach you?
My greatest failures, plural, would be the multiple shops I opened before this one that have failed. But you got to pull the trigger. If you're not making moves, you're going to just stay stagnant, and that's just how life is, You got to just risk it. Risk it all often. Don't be so afraid to fail. Like, failure isn't failure. Failure's a lesson. A lot of people hear failure, and they're like, oh, man, like, I don't want to fail. I don't want my family to see me as a failure. Well, I just wanted my family to see me be successful, and I was willing to do whatever it took. Like, whatever. I mean, at any cost. And I did. I opened some shops. I closed some shops. I had some bad business partners, and, now I have a great business partner. It's all in, just with great risk comes great reward. That's.
And like you said, the lessons you've learned from the poor partners, now you're more selective, know what to pick out of a new partner, what you're looking for, at least, I mean.
Yeah, and the feel that they give you, it's all learning. The more you learn, the better you are, the more you become a professional at life, I guess, And,
I mean, everybody's always impatient to hit success so fast, but unfortunately you have to have these learning obstacles, which you don't want. Everybody wants the Lamborghinis or the big houses or just the freedom. Everybody wants something different, but you have to pay your dues, and it comes in different forms.
Yeah, and a lot of people look at success as money, and that's not where it really falls. Like, where it really falls is your experience of life and who you spend and how you spend that experience with the people around you. And when all of that comes together, the money's there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, life needs to be right, and then your bank account, you know? Like, but that's all secondary. But I know everybody's listening because, you know, success is the main option, but it comes, you know? You just hard work.
Everybody defines success differently. Some people want the salary and they're okay with working the 7 days a week for 30 years, the pensions, and other people, quality of life's a bit more important. You know, as entrepreneurs, I want the flexibility when I need it.
Yep.
I want to grind when I have to, when I need, you know, and
that's what I love about it.
That's what I love about it. Yeah. Let's talk about the next one. If you could choose to have a conversation and learn from any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be? What are you talking about?
Oh, man. I mean, obvious ones are like Bill Gates. I mean, that guy's a genius. Like, out of control right there with how he built his company around him. Now he's worth so much money. Elon Musk is one I'd like to talk to.
Yeah, let's get why.
Just because the way he sees life and the way that he is his business owner, like, he's not closed-minded, you know? He takes, you know, critique from those that work for him because they don't work for him, they work with him in his eyes. And to me, that's the kind of team that you need to have when you're building, you know, something successful. Is you need to build the people around you too. You know, surround yourself with those who bring you up. And he did a good job of that, you know, and I just like to see, you know, what he would have to say.
They're talking about going to space.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mars or whatever.
They just shot a SpaceX thing off last night or something in Florida. It was crazy.
Man, Elon Musk. There's a quote that someone brought up on an earlier episode. He's like, it's very simple. If I'm working 100 hours a week and you work 50, I do in 6 months what takes you a year.
Yep.
And look how many light years. The Tesla, I mean, almost everything about it is light years ahead of the other top cars in the market.
Yeah.
You know, the Mercedes, the BMWs,
He set the standard with the way that they stay inside the lanes now. I mean, it's
and
unreal.
the doors handles. Everything about it is insane. The iPad as the...
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into a good one for everybody listening in to learn about your business. Let's look into the future a bit. We're going to look at yourself in 1 year from today and then 5 years today. What are you looking to see 1 year out?
1 year out, I'd just like to see this continued growth. I mean, right now, we're on a nice, steady incline. People are really realizing who we are. We're getting our name out there. Luckily, our work speaks for itself. Our attitudes, you know, just the overall feeling in the shop. I'd like to keep going in the direction that we're going. So, I mean, in the year, as long as we get people keep coming in the door, I'm pretty happy, man, you know?
And let's look at our sights a little bigger now. 5 years, what do you see all this going into? Is there something new coming along? What have we got?
So, I'll probably still be here. But in 5 years, I definitely want to bring on 2 more artists. I'm hoping by then that the name we've achieved with the work that we have will have the clientele coming in and out of the door so regularly that our, you know, new 2 artists will be making money. And then that way, I have income that's being generated by the business that I own in order to fund me
That's right.
and my family to go get, you know, do fun shit.
That's the goal. Like you said before, you put your head down for the tough times a little bit. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 10 years, sometimes it's 30 years, whatever it takes to get to that point of your definition of success, I think is so important. But thanks so much, Anthony. I know our listeners are going to see the value in your episode today. I loved how you talked about in the beginning how hard it was, how you had little clientele, how you second-guessed yourself. But as a true entrepreneur will tell you, when you weather the storm, it is always worth it, as long as you don't get off that track. But it's time for the last word. Is there something you want to share with everybody listening in that we didn't touch on today?
I mean, I guess I can kind of tell people my small little outlook on life, you know. I guess they can take it how they want, you know. Success is like a train tunnel. There's a light at the end of it. You just don't know how long it's going to take to get there. But just remember, keep walking.
I love that.
Keep walking.
Please go ahead and share your social media, new website, or ways for our listeners to get your services done, follow your journey, all that.
I mean, if you want to check out Instagram, Facebook, you can look at 9 Line Tattoo, the number 9, followed by Line Tattoo. We're on there. Our website is www.9linetattoo.com. And yeah, you'll find all of our stuff on there. Easy ways to get a hold of us, location, etc. Some pictures of our work.
Hey, Anthony, thanks for sharing all that. Everybody listening in, be sure to check out his content. A lot of good stuff on there. Remember, you can check out the show on Instagram and on Facebook at your favorite morning podcast. And we're on Twitter at PodcastsByLanci. Remember, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci on all social media and YouTube. And my website is vincentalanci.com. Make sure to check out my book, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, on Amazon now. but be sure to DM me or email me. I want to hear what you think. If you enjoyed today's episode, please continue listening and rate What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur 5 stars. I work very hard to find value delivering stories for you on each episode. And as always, I will end the show and follow the last word with a quote that inspired me and hope it does for you too. This one from the founder, president, and CEO of FUBU, Damon John. He said, 5 days a week, I read my goals before I go to sleep and when I wake up. There are 10 goals around health, family, and business with expiration dates, and I update them every 6 months. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur.